Alright, what's up guys? Welcome to another episode for the WRC Impreza. Last video we cut the quarter panels and inner fender well out of this Impreza coupe because of how rotted they were, which unfortunately I didn't think they were that rotted to begin with. So last episode I said I was going to be using these trailer fenders, which I have right here. And these have like a 90-degree lip on one side and then a progressive rolled edge on the other side. So I'm actually going to be using this rolled edge for the outer portion of the quarter panel, just because it'll be a little bit more forgiving, just in case if the quarter panel has a little bit of like a dip to it or something. But so off camera I just used this cardboard to basically make the inner fender well on this side. And basically I just used pieces of cardboard, stuffed it in here. I used, obviously you can see I used different sections of it just to try and get the curve right. So then I was able to get the width that I needed, and then I basically just laid it on top of the other fender, and I was able to figure out where I needed to cut. So I ended up cutting and trimming the other trailer fender, and I made this. So far you can see I have it going from here, which obviously I still need to figure out how to cap all this off. And then it goes up and around, and then it sits right there, which I cut it a little shallower than I wanted to. Obviously I'd want it to come down and tuck into this area, but I still have leftover piece from where I cut this, so I could just cut another small piece and then I could just tack weld it onto here, and either just finish weld it, or just, obviously I'm just gonna have to seam seal it all anyway, just so it doesn't rust or get water inside, I should say. But so that's not big of a deal. Then I just need to figure out what I'm gonna do for this area that's open. I'm still playing around with what I'm gonna do with that, but for now I just want to try and get this area to come down just so it meets flush with this piece right here. And then all of this stuff I'll work on afterwards. I just want to get this initial piece welded in, at least tacked in, and then I'll go from there afterwards. But it's looking good. Like I said in the last episode, it makes the full arch. Since the arch is a little bit different from this side to this side, you can see this side sitting flush with it, and this side kind of comes up a little bit. That's okay. That won't matter. I just have to fill that hole, and then fill this little hole right here. Just so water doesn't leak, or water and debris doesn't leak to the inside of the car. But that's it. And then obviously down here, like I said, I'm gonna have to figure out what I want to do. I think once the quarter panel is back off again, I'm gonna chop this whole piece off so it just sits flat with this. And then I'm gonna either make a triangle piece to match from this over to here, and then just do a flat piece down that welds like into this piece here. So I'm gonna have to play around with that a little bit. First what I gotta do is just cut it all out, but unfortunately I'm running out of cutoff wheels, so I need to go get more probably before I do the other side. But it's looking good. So right now I'm finding out that when I look at it head on from here, I can tell that the bottom portion of this quarter panel is actually sticking out a little bit, which when you look in here, I don't know if you guys will actually be able to see it or not. It's kind of trying to focus. But where the metal fender well meets the quarter panel, there's like a half and like a quarter inch of gap until about right here. So until about right here, there's a quarter inch gap before it meets the metal. And that's basically because of just this piece down here. So what I'm gonna try and do is maybe from like here back, trim maybe like quarter inch or so this lip is gone, to see if I could get this to push in enough to then sit flush with the inner fender, to have it sit flush with the inner metal fender well. Because from here, well, let's see, yeah, from pretty much from right here all the way around, it sits flat against this. You actually hear, I don't know if maybe you could hear it or not, it's solid. because it's resting against the metal fender well. And then even still, this part sits flush with the metal, and it sits flush with the actual body too. So I know this is all good. So I just got to get this side to tuck in a little bit, so then I can get the quarter panel to go in. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. It's kind of hard. I don't know if it's going to help if I zoom in or not. Yeah, you can't really tell on camera. I can see it with like eyeballing that. It actually comes out a little bit right there. Alright, so not much has progressed, but instead of trimming down here, what I noticed is that this, if I just push in this area, like the fiberglass obviously, it flexes a little bit. If I push in this area so it meets up with this inner metal lip from the fender well, it makes it sit flush. So now that area in there, just by using these two Cleco pins that go into the, sorry it's not going to focus, into the back side of the fender well, just by doing those two, it makes this area straight now, and it makes it all one shape. So that literally just fixed that problem. So now when I go back through and when I panel bond the whole outside of this and I panel bond the fender well area, I'm just going to put 2 screws in here on both of these spots to then just sandwich this piece. We'll pull this piece into the fender well, and then obviously once the panel bond cures, pull the screws out, and then I just have to fill 2 little small holes, and that'll keep that all together. So that'll be perfect. So that's good. That's exactly how I wanted it. And then back here, that gap that I had, the extra piece that I had when I cut off, it went, the original fender well whole section came down to about here, so I chopped it all off and I cut it too short, I guess, but I just made this piece right here, which I can't get out because it's sandwiched in there now, but it overlaps this piece by like maybe ½ an inch or so, so I'll be able to run some welds across this all the way up into here, and that will seal, along with obviously then I welded against this, and then obviously this in here will be panel bonded, and then that, if I don't do a weld all the way across, I'll just do some seam sealer against that, and then that will seal that together. So that's perfect. So that came out really nice. I really like that. So then now, once all this is tack welded in, I can go forward and just combine this piece of metal to this and just work my way down again. So that'll be all another day. Actually, I don't know if another day might be this episode for you guys. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how long this episode will go for. But that's it. So that's looking really good. So now the next step for me is I gotta take all this apart again, take the fender well out from the inside, and what I'm gonna do first is draw with a permanent marker the line right here of where I need to clean. And then I'm gonna go in with my probably a wire wheel and a grinding disc and make all of this bare metal. Same with all of this on the outside and on the inside, and make it all bare metal so I can start tack welding this into place. This side is gonna be a little bit more difficult. I think unfortunately I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet and cut the entire fuel cap area out, because now with already doing the other side, this fender arch, this is gonna get in the way. I know there's like maybe up until here or so where my nail is, I can cut all of this away, so it might give me enough like arch to like miss this piece. But like I said in the last video, I think I'm gonna have to cut all of this out and just make a new one of these that's extended. I've seen a lot of people doing that, and realistically, if I'm gonna make this like the best version of this car that I can, I'm gonna have to do it. I could just as easy and just as legit just leave this where it is, and then when the over fender quarter panel is bonded on, I can just like seal the inner area, like fiberglass it to the original body, like to this piece, and then that way this stays in the factory location, but then it's just spaced out farther. But then the issue that I'm afraid I'll have is that when I go to put a fuel filler like at like the gas station or whatever, I don't know if it'll reach far enough in here with this spaced out so far. So what a lot of people have to do is then space this out, the added, I think it's like 2 inches wider, or just about 2 inches, or a little bit more than 2 inches wider. So I'm gonna have to pretty much extend this out another like 2 inches. So that's gonna be a lot of metal fab work, and also trying to figure out the right location for it, which is probably not gonna be that easy. But I guess if I'm going this far into all this, then you know, I might as well. But I'm gonna just start with just trying to see if I can fit the arch in here with this in its spot. And if I can, then I'll try and just either leave it in its spot or build off of the fender arch. Alright, so it's a new day. I just finished just deburring all the little areas on here where like all like the little cutoff areas. Smooth all that down. Then I came in and I brought all this down to bare metal. Well, what I did first is that I held this up to where, well, I put it in its spot. I'm not going to right now. But basically, I got it in its spot like this, and then I drew a line on the basically area where it lined up with. So it came out to like here, came down into this, and then down here, and then tapered down closer to here. And then I just took my flap disc on my grinder, and I just got all this down to bare metal. So I'll show you the tool that I was just using right now. Of course, again, I'm charging the battery because the battery died. But I just used a sanding flap disc on my angle grinder, and it brought it right down to bare metal. So now that's all set to get this thing tacked into place finally. But what I did first is that I took the rear seats out, which now it's funny because now you can see straight through the car. But I took the rear seats out, and I took these inner panels out just because the inner panels came flush with here and it actually rested against this. And I was just afraid that with all the tack welding and then eventual like actual welding, it would heat up too much on the inside and probably catch that piece on fire. Which I needed to save those pieces because I'm transferring this gray interior into my green coupe that I have, and the RS interior out of that is going into this. So I needed to take it out anyway, just so it didn't catch on fire or ruin it or anything like that. I took it out. So I have the whole area from here up and over all the way down, all bare metal. That thing is now bare metal. I just got to clean it off. Same with this area, just do one final cleaning, and then I'm going to bring the welder over here and tack it into place. It'll actually be part of the car, which is going to be sweet. So I'm going to tack it into place, and then we will test fit the quarter panel again once I get maybe like 5 or 6 tacks, maybe like 5 to 8 tacks in here. And then we'll get the quarter panel on and we'll see how it fits. Alright, and just like that we have our first piece of our fender well tack welded into place. So I did a little bit more tacks than I said I was going to. I added quite a few in there just because some of the areas I actually had to push down, like push against the fender well just to get it to sit a little bit flatter against that. And then instead of tack welding in here, it was easier for me just visibility wise to just get it here on top. It's not going to matter if it's top or bottom. I'm going to be welding more of this together anyway. These are just tack welds to hold it in place, but it is shaking the whole car with it being on there. So now I'm just going to take this ground off, and let's go grab that quarter panel, see how it fits with the fender well on here. Alright, so here we go, quarter panel's back on, so now we can check to see. So I added one more up here just because it was pulled away maybe only like 1/8 of an inch or so, but it wasn't like tight to it like it is from like probably like here to here. Well, actually, yeah, here where it ends. So I just did that, so now when we go to panel bond the whole outer and then that whole area too, when we go to panel bond all that will be sitting flush against it and it'll actually seal. So obviously you can see we still have this in here. So now we got to tack weld in this little area right here that I made. So for that, I'm gonna leave this quarter panel on just so I can get the gap right, and then to do any type of finish welding. Obviously, this will have to come off anyway when we go to seal all that stuff. So I'm gonna go grab that piece, do that little weld, and I'll catch back up with you guys after that. Alright, and now just to finish off the inside, I ground the paint down over here and I tack welded this in, and I also just did a couple, like, I don't know, inch and a half welds on that, along with just one right here in the center. So now this is all attached together, so now this piece and this piece are now one. And then there was this hole that was right here. I'm sure you guys saw it before, but it's this hole right here. That new fender weld cuts right through half of it. So obviously if I don't seal that, it's gonna leak water or debris or anything inside the car, and I don't want that. So I had to make a little half circle, which please don't pay attention to the welds. For some reason the welder was acting funny right here. But I made a little patch piece and tack welded that into place. So now that's sealed. So now the whole inside, oh, you know what? Right when I was about to say that, that little hole needs to be patched too. I might do that from the inside. I'll make a small little rectangle or like a small little square, and I'll go inside the car and I'll weld that from the inside. So I still got to do that. Good thing I didn't forget about that. Yeah, so the whole fender well is all tack welded in. Every like quarter inch or so there's a weld. I'm afraid to try and do larger strips of weld because the like this stuff right here is really thin. So I don't want to go too hard because I don't want to go too long of a weld because then I'm going to heat it up too much and I'll burn through it, which I did once over here on the inside over there. You don't want to do that, so I just did tacks every even every 1/8 inch or so. But it's on. If I grab this and I shake it, it shakes the whole car on the lift. It doesn't make any creaking noise, no cracking noise, like anything's coming loose. So I think we're good. I think we're all set with that now, which I'm super excited about. So we finally have a fender arch in there. Now, you know, obviously we still have to do the whole other side and finish this area down here and finish however I'm gonna get all of that to be sealed again. But I need to buy a lot more metal. All I have for metal right now is just the flares themselves. So I need to go over to the the metal yard and just get some sheet metal. Alright, so it's been a couple days since just this last part of the video that you guys just saw. You can see the quarter panel's back on, and actually the front bumper is on. The rear bumper was actually just on too, because if you guys watched the previous episode, I'd mock fitted pretty much the entire kit. Side skirt's very iffy right now because I need to be trimmed quite a bit, but I took a little bit of a break from doing the rust repair / the fender welds. But so now I'm back, we're doing the rust repair, and I am uncovering just a little bit more rust in an area that I thought it didn't have. Well, I thought it didn't really have like rot. I thought it was just surface rust. So this area right here on the driver's side, lower rocker, which it's typical for these, especially with the quarter panel, just like the rocker on the other side, it's all rotted. So I'm not like too upset about this because all of this is gonna have to be fixed anyway. But this was all a little bit like, I'd call it a little bit hairy. It was all like, it looked like surface rust, but I got my hammer and a little screwdriver and I started poking holes through this area right here. But obviously you can see the rocker panel ends right here. So it's kind of far in. It's like about an inch into it. It kind of like rotted out. But that's okay because the fender well is so far back from it that I still have a lot of real estate to be able to cut out and then plate it back in. So now I'm trying to decide what I wanted, or basically how far I want to cut out of this. So if I cut flush with the fender well, it'll come down to right here, and I'll bring it down to like this area right here, which is definitely far enough away from that. But I'm kind of thinking, but then I'm going to be cutting into this like inner frame piece. So that's one option, and then kind of just like contour the bottom to be able to match this, so I can just tack weld this into place all the way up and then kind of come out and then up to meet this. Obviously the side skirt is going to be about here down, and that's just going to be open to like atmosphere because it's not going to be a bolt-on thing, so I got to make sure. So basically I can just follow this line and then come up out of here and then meet up with this. So I gotta figure out how I want to go about doing this. Obviously this is out of the wheel travel area, so it's okay if I have it angling in a little bit. So what I might do is just cut this area out just so it matches up with this, and then cut this more flush with where this inner like structure frame piece is. You can see I've got like 1.5 inches or so right there. Cut all that out and then maybe grind a little bit of this, or even what I can do is cut a little bit of this back so I can take this piece out too, and then I can just make a new piece that goes from here and comes outward into this. I want to try and get this piece in and done, and then figure out still what I'm gonna do over here. I'm not 100% sure. I gotta try and figure out what I'm gonna do to fill this hole. All right, so off camera, it's literally been like almost 2 hours of me just doing this. So I got this whole side tacked together and sealed up. So I got it sealed to the actual rocker panel now, and all of it's actually flush. So remember I was just saying how I was gonna maybe put it on an angle. I was able to get it to go straight down. So now all that, obviously everything is gonna be seam sealed and panel bonded. So it's gonna be completely sealed and watertight, but now everything, this one's still a little hot. Now everything is welded onto the inner seam of this, welded onto here, and this whole thing is like super solid now, and I couldn't be happier. That looks great. Now obviously it might look a little weird. I had to hammer this thing a ton of times to try and get it to bend in the area that I needed it to, but remember all of this is going to be re-bedlinered and primered and then sealed and bedlinered afterwards. So after all of it's done, you're not even going to be able to tell. So now this side is actually done. So now next time I'm here, which will probably be tomorrow, I work on this side. Basically same concept. I'll just go straight down this line like I said, and we're just going to cover up this area. But now I'm going to get the quarter panel back on just to see how that looks. Alright, so now I've got the quarter panel back on, and as you can see it literally fits perfect, and I couldn't be happier with how it's coming out. So this right here, I just got to make a little sliver and just weld that into place just to seal that. But besides that, that is all set. So now I think I'm just going to maybe make the first piece, because you can still see it needs to go down just a little bit farther to meet up with the inside of this piece. So I'll just do a little tiny section right there, and then we can start working downward. Alright, so just off camera, I just made these two cardboard templates that's going to start covering up this area right here. I actually cut more of this out because this whole lower section was really rusty. So I actually cut more of it out. I was thinking about just going all the way across, but that means I'd have to cover this this little, I forget what it's called, just like an air, like a breather area for like when you open and close the doors, those flaps open up so the pressure inside the car can vent out. So I want to keep that. Obviously the other side I'm going to keep as well. So I'm just going to plate this, I'm going to box this in. So I started making these two plates. I can't do anything right now because I'm waiting for the battery to charge for my cutoff wheel. So this will just slip right into here. It'll come in and it'll sit just like this in there. So now I have it sitting out just a little bit so I could weld it in. And then obviously it'll sit in there like that, so it'll box it in. So now this piece that I made will fit up into here, overlap a little bit just so I can do some welds, overlap on this side so I can weld it, and then it'll sit in there like this, and it'll cover up this upper piece, so it'll seal the top section. And then all I'm gonna do afterwards is just one more piece, and what I'm gonna do is cut this area flush with here, so all of this will be gone. So it'll basically, this will be like the outside now, and I'm just gonna have one piece that ties into this and ties into that and just covers from this piece in here all the way to here. So it'll sit in there roughly like that, and it'll just box it in. And that's all. That's what I'm gonna do. Obviously this whole area right here gets covered by the bumper, so you won't see any of it. So that's what I'm gonna do. Plus all of it's gonna be undercoated. It's gonna be primed and undercoated anyway. So that piece is like that. That piece is there like that. Once these are both tacked into place is when I'll start building this last piece. Alright, so I just cleaned up this area, I cut this down, and I ground all of it to now bare metal. Then I had to use some like airplane remover or whatever this stuff was called to try and get the paint to come off, because I couldn't get my my sanding, my grinder with the flap disc on it, I couldn't get it in there because this raised area was in the way. So I had to just do that, and I sanded it down all in here, did all of this, and then I cut this piece out of metal, had to cut a couple little grooves out of it to get it to fit in its spot. So it's going to go in there just like that. And you can see I have a little bit of an area raised just so I can get a weld on there, and then it'll cover it just like that. Alright, so now I just got this piece tacked in, and I've got this piece tacked in. So now the only thing I have left to do is just make a plate that goes from up here over to here, and then obviously just then it'll weld onto the top of this piece and to the bottom of this piece to seal the little boxed area out. So now I'm gonna get another piece of cardboard and make another template for right here, and I'm gonna see if I have enough time today to cut that piece out of metal and hopefully maybe get it tacked in as well. Alright, so for that last piece, I made this out of cardboard just to get the rough size and shape of what it's gonna be. I just cut it out, well not just, I cut it out and I just finished tack welding it in. So now I have that plate on down there, it's all tack welded in against the top, the inside against that, and against right here. I made a little bit of a mistake and I cut it a little bit too short up here, so there's a gap right here. So I just need to make a small little piece and just tack weld that into place too. But besides that, it's all in there. So this is pretty much what it's going to look like. Like I said, the bumper is going to be on there so you won't be able to see it. So I'll probably grind this down smooth so then you won't see that, but just so it's not like a raised edge anymore. And then that's it. So now I can put this piece back in wherever I put that. I think it's inside the car. Put that back on, and this side is all set. So besides this little tiny piece, this whole fender well now is now all sealed for when the quarter panel gets bonded onto it. So that's good. So now next time I'm here, I'm just going to do this, and then the upper strut tower piece in here, which is going to take a little bit of time to do. Alright guys, so we're back. So this is still the same episode obviously for you guys, but for me this is actually like a month and a half later than what was actually previous in this video. Couple things life-wise, not really got in the way, but I kind of took a break on the car for a little while. But now I'm back. Like I said, I don't know if I ever said it before, but I wanted to try and get the car done before Wicked Big Meet, which is, I believe, in June, end of June. And it's less than 2 months away now, and the car's not gonna get done for that. So I think I'm just gonna take the WRC again to that. But so let me show you what I've gotten done. So I did a little bit of work a couple days ago when I was here. I didn't pick up the camera because I was only here for maybe like 20-30 minutes at most. So let me show you what I did, and then also what I just finished right now. So one of the last things I needed to do to clean up, well, to finish the inside of here, was that I needed to add just a little tiny piece right here in the area that I cut a little too shallow, and then also I needed to fill this hole right over here, which was just a little tiny hole that went to the inside of the car. So I got both of those all patched up, and then what I was just working on last time I was here, this is the template that I made for it. It's for this piece over here that was rotted out and replaced with like aluminum foil. So I just cut the piece out of steel, and I got it all tack welded in. So now finally the inner strut tower area up here, the strut tower area up here on like this side of it is now replaced. So in one of the first videos when I was tearing this whole thing apart, this area was just some weird like aluminum foil type stuff, which was obviously not the proper way to fix that, and in turn it rotted out the quarter panels. well, one of the reasons why the quarter panel was rotted out. So now I actually have a proper piece of steel in here. I gotta start ordering either some primer for all this bare metal, or I might coat it with the Steal It spray, because I had a little bit of a fire the last time I was here when I was welding this piece in, and I had to spray some water, and it's rusting a little bit of the area over here just because this is just raw steel. So I just got to do a little bit more welding on this, and then I could start building out just a little bit of a structure piece that used to be from here and go down to the wheel well. And then that's it. And then I'm finally done. Finally done with all of this. So I think that's where I'm going to leave this episode off, just because it's been so long, and I actually had the previous part of this video already edited for a long time. And I never had any ending portion of that video to actually properly end it. So I'm going to end it here for today. Next episode we will be finishing up that side, which is just that last structural piece, and then we're going to be moving on to the passenger side. The passenger side, I think I'm just going to do more of like a time-lapse video, and then a walkthrough afterwards of what I did, just because you guys have now seen me do it on the driver's side. So I'll catch you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up. I'll see you in the next one. See ya.